Laurie Ellison from Hudson Valley Bookkeeping. In today's QuickBooks tutorial, I will teach you how to set up QuickBooks Desktop for landlords. All right, let's get started.
Hi everyone, here we are in QuickBooks Desktop Pro. Mine says via accountant, and that is because I have an accountant version, but I'm doing this in the Pro edition. So it'll look just the same for you. I've already downloaded the program, so you would have to do that in your own. That is in another video I have on setting up a QuickBooks desktop file. All right. Okay, so here we are. When you sign in, you will need to create an account at QuickBooks. You will do this to verify your subscription. I'm not going to show myself logging in, but this is another step that will happen anytime you set up a new QuickBooks desktop file. If you're a landlord and you own multiple properties, you'll just have to continuously do this. They're doing this to make sure you're not using someone else's license. Okay, so here we are setting up the desktop file for this specific LLC. Please remember, if you have multiple LLCs, you need multiple files. If you're a sole proprietor, meaning you don't have any of your properties under the protection of an LLC, then you could just create one file. Many of my clients create their LLCs with the property name. So we'll just call this 123 Main Street LLC. They do this, I see this all the time, okay? Okay, so you would just do anything. I'm just making this up. Okay, guys, so here is the premise for setting up this file. And I would recommend doing this before you start working in QuickBooks because you tend to like kind of get lost or confused. So this will be your roadmap to understanding how to set this up. So just get it down on paper, just a back of an envelope, it doesn't matter. I made this simpler and I would recommend this honestly, if you had two buildings, don't use the same numbers. That way, if the bookkeeper you hire or you're doing it, you don't accidentally pick the wrong building. It just makes things easier. Think of things ahead of time. All right, so I set up what are the units, how much are the rental amounts for each unit. And then here I wrote, need to set up a class for each building. So class is, let's say you only really want to know your rental income or expenses on building 1. You can make your profit and loss for only that building, or you can have 2 columns, and I'll show you about this later. So, okay, what would I do first? I would set up the rental income in your chart of accounts first. I have a video on chart of accounts, but I'm just going to show you the most important part, which would be income. So this is commission income. We're going to change this to rental income. Okay, then you would want your 2 buildings, building 1 and building 2. So we do building 1, and then you have 3 units under building 1. I'll show you why this matters and why you do this first. Now we need to do building 2. Again, this is why it's so much better that I wrote this all out. Okay, so here we see we have a building 1, 3 units, and we have a building 2, 3 units.
Okay, guys, so we created rental income accounts, right? So, because this is what you're really going to be wanting to track. So this has to be built before you create items in order to invoice. So we'll create the items, and the last thing is we'll create the tenants and so forth. But you might as well get your building blocks here so you're not trying to do this on the fly. So go up to list, item list. Service is fine. I would just do it by unit. Unit A. Now the rate right now, and you could change it, but the rate for unit A is $1,200. You could even put in here, I'm not going to do this on each one for speed, but and you could actually write here unit A. This is the rate. Oh, then you link it to unit A, rental income. Oops. I'm not going to do the description on each one. I'll show you one more, and then I'll do the rest on my own. Okay, so here we are. We have all of our units, A, B, C, D, E, F. And then if you look this way, they should correlate. This is a good thing to check for before you start, so you don't have to like go back and fix things. So each one of these matches E to E, D, C, B, A. And I put in the amounts for each unit. Okay, so now we are able to invoice once we set up our customer. I always think you should kind of do your foundation work first. Don't try and do this on the fly. This is another thing, like I have my printout of rental amounts, so I didn't get anything confused. Also, if you do have multiple buildings under one LLC, try not to use the same unit numbers so that you don't get confused, because someone who works for you will. It's bound to happen. Okay. Now we're going to go set up the actual tenants. So we're going to go customer center. So your building is your customer. Okay. So new customer. And how did I call these? Building 1. Okay. Building 1 is the customer. And now we will add jobs as the units. So we have unit A, unit B. Oops, this one needs to be sub of the building. So we can go here. Here. Okay. So now we're getting, hide that. I'm going to make this bigger. Okay, so then we need unit C. We're going to do a new customer for building 2. Oh, wait, what did I do here? I screwed that up again. It's so easy to fix in desktop. Okay. No, maybe it's doing that because let me spell out 2. Unit D. Whoops, not a customer. TS3. New job. Oh, I did it again. Turn it. Look, and maybe it's defaulting that way. So just go up here. I fixed it. Okay. So now we have our units, but these tenants are going to change. They're not always going to be the same tenant. So you would now, back on that Word document I made, I said, who are my tenants? So I'm in unit A. Here, job info, I want to see. Okay, forget it. Oh, you know what it is? Your notes, you're going to have to, wait, here we go. John Smith. So here, John Smith, his lease term is 6/1/21, 5/31/22. And then you would put in, if you had a longer lease with different increases, you could put it here. You could also put if something happens with John, pays late, certain notes, you could put in this. See how you can drag this over? Okay. So unit B, so this is how we make sure we're in the right spot. Unit B, I have Brett Thomas. So Brett Thomas, unit B. Amount. I have him as 1,250. So you're always adding a job for the tenant. So C, Sally White. You can skip ahead if you don't want to keep watching this. There will be timestamps. Okay, so now we should have all of our tenants set up. We have notes for each tenant and we have our buildings. Okay, so we have 6. So now you need to invoice each one of these, and I'll also teach you how to set it up to automatically invoice every month. Okay. So you go to John Smith. It's right here. You can say new transactions, invoice. I personally don't think you should have to email a tenant anything. They should know that this needs to be paid, but that's just me. Okay, so our item codes should be Unit A is John Smith. So we have John Smith. It says Unit A. I didn't make the description for everyone, but it already, since I put in the codes, it's there. So if you click memorize, you can automate it. So the next one would be, it would be monthly. The next one would be 7/1. And since you did the first one, you would have 11. And you might want it to, you need to log in and remember to do this because they don't just go out if your QuickBooks is closed. So it kind of, you can enter it one day ahead or on the day, either way. Okay, so save and close. Well, let's do save and new. Pencil here. Okay, so we did A. So you got to get a pen and paper and make sure you invoice everybody. So unit B is Brett. And then just cross-check your worksheet. Brett is supposed to be $12.50. That's good. I mean, this is where the description's good because then they can see their lease end date. Again, we're going to go to monthly. I'm going to say 11. But we're going to do save and close or save and new so that this one posts. So Sally is C. So it's easy because you see up here it says C. So then you know which item code to pick. Now, if it becomes a new tenant that's not Sally, different name, you'll still pick C and it'll still be under that. Okay, so again, now you want to turn off this print later. Click memorize. And it's okay to just call it Sally because it'll be different. Next one, 7/1. So we've done 3. Now we've got to get down to unit D. Before you save and new, make sure you memorize it. If you have to click a different thing or it won't work, even if you pick a next date. We have 11 remaining. So that was D. So you see how everything kind of like goes together so that you try not to mess things up. You just really want to pay attention here. Don't fall asleep at the wheel. Don't get click happy. We've got one more. So this is what you would do each time you set up a new tenant. You should make their first invoice and then memorize. Since we already did 6/1 right here, that's why we're saying our next one is 7/1, and we have 11 more to go. Okay, so now you can see that each tenant, building 1 has 3,550 outstanding, building 2 has 6,000. Okay. So let me show you now how to receive a payment if someone pays you. So you can I think it's actually for a beginner QuickBooks person to actually go into the person you want to receive from. But I'll show you a couple ways. So I'm in John Smith and I'm going to click receive payment. So it just makes it easy because it brings it right up. So I think I can, oh, it doesn't let me do that. Okay. Oh, wait. Oh, it did. Okay, good. So you could say he paid by check. You can put the check number. So this is going, see what it says, where does this go? Since it's not showing the checking account, it's going to what's called undeposited funds. But let's say a couple of people pay you. Now here is the window. If you weren't in it. Now John Smith doesn't show he owes anything. You could go this way, customer, receive payment. It's a little harder. Now let's say Brett only paid $1,200. He shorted you. It's going to say there's an underpayment. I think it's easier, as you can see, to just click it this way and inside the customer. Now you're probably going to use, it doesn't matter about, you don't need 2 bank accounts. This is one LLC. We're going to just pretend life is grand and everybody pays, okay? Well, you know, one of the other reasons is I actually need to set up a bank account. I'll show you how to do that too. If you click that, then it just puts it in. I think until you're really good in QuickBooks, just do it. Go into each customer. So you can either click the invoice or enter the full amount. Okay, so we can't deposit this because we do need to have a checking account. So right now, all my money is sitting right there. Okay, stop. So I'm in the chart of accounts. I click new. I click bank. Okay. All right, so we've received right here, you can see they say 9,500 is in undeposited funds. So let's say they all paid on the same day and you batch up your checks. So here they all are. Maybe you only have one, you'd still just go banking and then pick the check. You should have a different account for your escrow, and I'll go over how to handle that next. Okay, so there you go. You received your payments. Save and close. So I just want to show you. Oh, I forgot to do something, so we'll do that next, which kind of messes things up. Okay, so now you can see QuickBooks loves accrual. So this would be everything you invoiced. That's your, but we're short because of the one unit was $50 short. Okay, but see how nice it's showing building 1, A, B, and C, and D, E, and F. Okay. So another thing you can do is turn on classes. Should have done this before. Okay, so in our preferences, another thing we can do is use class tracking, which is really important if you have 2 buildings. So now that I turn on classes, there's a class list. So what we need to do is make a building A and a building B. I don't think you should go into unit detail. A and B is plenty. So then the other thing though is, which we should have done first, because then you could make sure these are memorized, but inside your invoice, you can now, unit A is in build. Oh, whoops, see, I screwed that up. It's building 1, building 2. It's good too to have a cheat sheet for whoever works for you, because it'll make so much sense to you and it won't to anyone assisting you in bookkeeping. Okay. So now here on this invoice, unit A is part of building 1. Oops. If you have multiple LLCs, I would recommend QuickBooks Desktop, because the price is just going to be a lot to have that if you're buying and selling buildings all the time. Or just, and this is very fast. I often recommend using Right Networks if you need to view it and you have like someone else helping you with bookkeeping. Our clients that, oops, I always go that need to be on desktop because they have multiple units, they usually use Right Networks because our company can also connect. So it basically, Right Networks makes it a cloud-based QuickBooks. Okay, so let's show how that shows. You'd use these classes whenever you enter expenses as well. Escape is a great shortcut. Okay, so now we'll go reports, profit and loss by class. And you can see, of course, now if you saw income over on the wrong side in the wrong class, but up in the wrong building, you know something's wrong. But this helps you in 2 different ways, especially once you start getting expenses, letting you know, like which building is more profitable. If you're having an issue in one with vacancies or too many expenses, having the 2 columns for your P&L will really be helpful. Okay, the next thing I will teach you is how to set up security deposits. I'm only going to do it for 3 units because it's time consuming. So first thing, you should have a second bank account for your security deposits. I'll go bank. Okay. But before we do anything else, we have to realize, let's say for each tenant, they should have their own security deposit account. Like it'll all be in one bank account, but you should be able to track it. So again, just how we set up the income first, let's set up these accounts. They are liability accounts. They're other current liability. So first we want to create a blanket one. Okay. And then you could just put them by unit and then in and outs. I'll show you what that is. So unit A, wait, shoot, that goes up top. Okay. We're going to have to create an item the same way. Okay. I did. Okay, because you always set up your chart of account first, then you do your items. Okay. List, item list. So here was rental income. Now we need to do security. So since I already have unit A that way, I don't want to start charging people and having it post the wrong thing. I'm going to start it this way so that I don't accidentally. So that's where I should try and keep things the same. I'm not going to put an amount in there. It could change. You don't use these enough. Okay, so we got A, B, and C. As you can see, they're going to a liability account, okay? Not income. So let's go back to our customer center. John is someone we need to make it. We need to charge him. Let's just say, I'm just going to use a month rent as the same amount. So since I'm in John, it makes that easier. Now see how I did security so that it's because I didn't put in a standard price. Oh, see, and it says, it warns me about the class. So unit A is building 1. Okay. And I'll get out of here again. This is easier so you're not mistaking who you're supposed to do something for. Unit B, 1250. Whoops, I keep forgetting. Okay, then we got Sally. Here, you can do the whole class up here. Okay, so now let's go receive their payments. Make these separate invoices. Don't put your security and the other on the same one. I think it's probably easier. So it still shows he owes. Because you actually would you really should get separate checks for your security deposit because they need to go on a different bank account. It's so much easier if you have a photocopy of a security deposit check. Many of my clients, they get a separate check, one check for security, one check. So it's very easy to track because tenants will come back years later and tell you they paid you more. So if you have a very clean check that just shows one where they wrote security in the memo. Okay, so I'm selecting all, but look, I need to change the deposit to security deposit bank account. Okay. Okay, so I showed you what a profit and loss would look like, but now, okay, so now often people are wondering how much am I holding of my tenant's money, right? So now you can see how much, and I didn't do all 6 units, but you can see here from those invoices that the amounts you're holding. And this is why also this amount should always usually less interest should be the same as your bank balance. So look up here, Chase Security Deposits, 3,550. So you never want your escrow account to have less money than you owe. Okay. And if they're gaining interest on these individual accounts, I'd recommend using a bank that's good with tenant security deposits. Here in New York, Orange Bank and Trust is very good with that. So that's another thing to really realize. So you understand that security deposits are not income. And so even though you have this money in your bank, if we ran this on a cash basis, since we have no other money in the bank account, it would be 9,500. So let's say we're still dealing with this $50. Let's say there was a reason why he didn't pay the $50. Like he had to fix something and you just said, oh, you fix it, I'll give you a $50 credit. So what are you going to do? Well, first you'd have to create a credit item. Okay. For that. So do you want to take it off a rent, or let's just say something bad happened and you're giving him a $50 rent credit, because that'll actually be easier. Okay. So our person is Brett Thomas, and he doesn't really owe us this $50. But this is why it's so much easier to just click into the customer. Okay. Create a credit memo. So we can see here he's unit B. So we're going to click B. But we're just going to say he's getting $50 and he's building 1. Okay. Okay, so it's going to say here, what do you want to do with it? So if he didn't have anything open, then we might have to retain it as available for later. Or maybe he wanted you to write a check, give a refund. But this time we're just going to apply it to the invoice. Going to say, okay. And so we're applying $50 against his $50 due. I mean, this is like such a perfect scenario. I don't know anybody that all pays on the first, but wouldn't that be wonderful? So now everybody, and you would know your rent roll is really supposed to be a certain, a different amount. It'd be 3,550. But you could see in here, okay, wait, $50 less. And I have plenty of videos on reconciling and so forth. This is more about how to set up your tenant, how to make sure your income code's right, how to set up your security deposits. This video you should maybe watch once or twice just to understand the basis, because your building blocks are the most important part, right? So your chart of accounts needs to be set up right. Don't just go start making invoices without, like I did before. I wrote out how many units, what is everybody supposed to be charged? What is their lease term, right? So you have to think of all of these things. I forgot to put classes in right away. So if you have more than one building, then you would want to use the class. Okay, guys, here's the last thing I'm going to show you, and that's how to post your expenses. So I always do Control W, and then you need to pick the right checking account. So let's say you paid everything like online, you just need to post it in your check register. So ACH, and let's say it's a utility company. Let's see what they made you in here. So utilities, and let's say it was $500. And this is where you would pick your class. So this was for building 1. Let's say for those 3 units, they don't have their individual utility bill. And then if you went back to your profit and loss, click refresh. Now you'll see this one has 500, and that's where you want to use the classes. So as you pay for different things for your buildings, that's where you would be able to pop this. One other idea, if you have multiple buildings or even one building, would be to add a class called General and Administrative. And that would be for things like maybe you have a website, maybe you're paying for software at Buildium or Rentigo. Rentigo, I think, is free. Okay, so this would be anything like office supplies. Maybe you're running some of your operational expenses like auto, things like that. So again, let's do Control W. We're in the right checking. You can say this is on debit card. No go. Okay. Automobile. And then over here, you could do this. Now, you shouldn't have any income in general and admin. It would only be expenses. Okay. So now if we go back here, profit and loss by class, click refresh. So now we have certain expenses. So you could put different expenses that maybe, you're running through your LLC that don't have anything to do specifically with the building. Then you'd want to put it with general administrative. This will help you really get a good idea of how your properties are doing. And the reason why is that you're doing all of the pre-work ahead of time. So you're making sure that these are done. Okay. So I hope you found this helpful. Please put in the comments any other videos you'd like me to make or questions, and I'll be sure to answer your questions or try and respond with another video. All right. Have a great day.